hunting scene. Somewhere down here. And then these really interesting three-toed humanoid figures.
Hello everyone. We're on our way to a little last minute outing today. Just out for a few hours, but we're gonna go see something super cool. I'm here with my fiance Tara, and we'll be going out to see some ancient glyphs. And they're really cool and special because they're not really normal. They show humans, and then as well, they show a mammoth of all things, so you can tell the antiquity. And then along with that, there was another character that appears to be some kind of a reptile or reptoid guy with 3 fingers, long neck and everything. And his glyph actually matches exactly a lot of the stuff from the figurines from Japan and some others from around the world that depict these characters. And then along with that, it's also symbolism that can be attributed to the Sumerians or Babylonians or maybe far before that. And this is where they got their symbolism, like the goddess with the split fish tail and things like that are there as well on the rock. So it's a little journey out here, but we'll get there pretty soon, and then we'll hit you back up once we get on the trail. Okay, we made it out on site, and we're going to be following this ancient trail up here that's monumented out. I'm not going to be pointing out all the monuments. We've got another video that basically shows all the monumentation that's out here and everything along on this trail, and how these monuments work together to go to a final location that's up on top of the mesa. We're going to be walking, or tripping, a little different route in this time. Going to stay in the bottoms. You can see all the cactus are ripe with cactus fruit, which is very, very edible if you dare. So one way to do it is to get it with a stick, jab it on there, and then light a little fire and just roll it around the fire. And in that way you burn off all the little hairy micro spines. Trust me, you don't want to get one of those in your tongue, because man, that'll ruin your week. And but they're delicious once you get that done. They're really, really good. The jelly from those are delicious. So very few people ever walk these parts of the country. You might get somebody horseback every once in a while looking down into these little canyons, but just don't have people walking out here. That is interesting, because that doesn't fit what we just saw. You know what? It may not have been a boot print, because that is sure a muddy handprint. I don't think that's a bear. That's crazy right there, because I haven't seen any bear print in the sand or anything down there. So that's wild. I need to go ahead and photo document that. You get a picture? Well, that was crazy. That didn't look like it was from an animal at all. Look, there's not, I mean, there's tracks here from a little wild cat or something, maybe ringtail cat, or definitely looks like a foot like that. Those are very, very slight. I don't see anything else from any kind of creature that would have left that handprint. Whatever came through here was coming through pretty stealthy. There's some coyote. So tracking, there's a small long print right there. I don't know where it is on the camera. Let's see. Right there. That's a print. That looks like a small hominid. You see it? A couple of little toe digs. See pretty good on camera. It looks like here's an edge right there. Another print. So this is what we call shine. When you look across the ground at this angle against the sunlight, you can see fresh flat spots very, very well, and they kind of look shiny to everything else. Well, that's one of the more interesting things I've seen in a while, that little muddy handprint. That's hominid, and that didn't fit. What I thought was a boot the first time probably wasn't. So here's a pushed out edge too, from looks like a hominid foot. And there's the other one. See that? Toes splayed.
Yeah, I do see that.
See that one there with toes splayed there? That one's right next to it. These look like two different sizes. Yeah, let's do that. Come out here for ancient glyphs and lost cultures and ancient advanced technology and treasure. And we run into Bigfoot stuff all the time. And that's how I initially got into all this. All Bigfoot was, they're out here. And the stranger, or more remote or more rugged the site gets, more likelihood is that they're there with us. So this area here is the object of our quest. So up in this gap are where all these crazy glyphs are. And there's another apparent hominid print right there, heading right to where we just were. Well, apparently the video stabilization was off. So I'm going to show this green rock right here. And what I think this place was some of the ancient mines 10,000 years ago. And this is probably one of the materials they were mining. This is a real odd concretion of mineral in sandstone that comes up in belts, but we see it only at these crazy, weird marked locations. And it's very green compared to everything else. I don't know if the video shows it very well. This wide angle camera doesn't have quite the color value my other camera in here does. But up on this face is where we have the stuff that looks like it could go to ancient Babylon. I mean, it's, or same iconography. And then through a big gap up here in a big 30-foot tall rock, and you go over this other cliff, and that's where the really crazy glyphs are. At least we get the image stabilizer while we're climbing up this. And at our first, there's actually a propped monument right here, a triangle rock up on top of this, our first one. And then right below it, we have two what archaeologists would call grain pounding holes or whatever. And could be as likely for ore processing, especially being right on top of a little stream bed here, or what potentially is or was. But these you can see pound completely through the rock. About 18 inches, maybe 20 inches, 20, maybe even more. And they sit below that triangle propped rock right there. Now, a lot of people, these are the same monuments that people follow and say, oh, it's Spanish and treasure, Spanish treasure related and stuff. Some of this stuff is 8,000 years old, 9,000, 10,000 years old. And it may still go to caches of wealth. That's part of the history that they don't just reveal to everybody, is this stuff gold was being mined 10, 12,000 years ago under the instruction of people that may not have been from this world or other than human that were from here. But up on the rock face up here, let's see what this thing will do. There's our glyphs right in the center frame there, and those are the ones that look like they have literally the same as the Sumerian Babylonian iconography. We'll take a look. And this panel is so big it's hard to even catch it all. So these big vertical lines are all part of the same panel. They could actually be appendages of like a big animal or something. But these are the ones we're talking about. It's actually a little difficult to see. But you've got a head, outstretched arms, it was like a bull or something. But the most important part are the two upward facing, like a split tail or split fish tail. Then you have the symbol for flight. You have like an orb, center ball with streaks off of it, just as if it's cruising. And you have an animal form, pretty strange one. And over here we've got, looks like some type of pronghorn sheep, with the guy with something in his hand here. And then much larger animals next to people. And these are, I don't know what that is, but it's bigger than the people. And then there's a deer, normal size pronghorn, normal size smaller animal like that. And then you've got these guys, each with these hooked forms, are here like this. Normal size deer. You got a big tall guy, taller than us. You have us. Then you have a creature that's a lot taller than them. They don't have any of that megafauna in existence for the last 9,000 years. So. I was just noticing that below the glyph panels at this ancient point of occupation, and people have been here a gazillion times, but This is an ancient tool laying here. It's pretty cool. And this is a scraper. You can see the worked edges there. And this should be Paleolithic. I could get Tara to come verify this. But this stuff probably goes 9,000-10,000, which gives testament to the glyphs that's over there under that cliff in the sun that she's at right now, and the ones we've got here, and the fact that we got a mammoth on them. But so it's a cool tool. So I'm going to try to show you how this kind of works, all in all. From the glyph panel featuring the main characters, here, the one with the split fishtail looking guy, and the other one. And then we have this very large panel here where it's all, you can see these are all pecked out lines, where they've actually pecked them out of the rock. And a lot more pecked out lines as we look up too. You look all up in here, it's all, this whole thing is a big panel. It's just wiped. And then when you look across though, what we want to do is we actually want to look right along the standing face. This isn't an accident. This face is real, and it's done there on purpose. As is the overhang and the whole 9 yards. So this is where the Jesuits and a lot of others adopted this same method of marking areas is super ancient. And this is a head here with an eye and a mouth, nose, forehead. And what they're doing is looking at a glyph panel. And that glyph panel shows what looks like a dome-shaped craft, like UFO or flying dome disc, emitting energy down at a raptor-type creature, like a dinosaur. And we see this motif repeated over and over and over throughout different sites in the Southwest, which also fits the Hopi history of the heroes, which would be these guys on the rock behind me, showing up and taking out the dinosaurs. So the heroes slew the dinosaurs on the surface so that the people could come out of the canyon lands and onto the surface lands. Because when they, point of emergence and afterwards, that the surface was being just covered by monsters. And certainly if it was covered by dinosaurs, it would be considered monsters. So these would be your two heroes here, two different aspects. One with a tail like a bird, means someone who flies, and then the other with a split tail like a fish, just like the Sumerian Babylonian stuff. And then you have, of course, what looks like a craft flying through the sky over the deer there. Who are they?
Melusine. She served as the alchemical symbol for transformation, a bridge between the visible and invisible, the corporal and physical, between the explicable and the inexplicable, between immortality and mortality, and possibly between worlds. Melusine Lucina, Princess May Lasanu, Melusine de Lucina, was the first Scythian princess of the Picts of Alba, the dragon princess and fairy daughter of Satan, witch, druid Fée de la Fontaine de Soif de Lusignan, 740 AD. Melusine is one of the 3 daughters of the first serpent-human hybrid Persine. She is the spirit of fresh water, usually depicted as a woman who is a serpent or fish from the waist down, much like the mythical mermaid. She is also frequently illustrated with 2 tails which represent the 2 bloodlines of the serpent hybrids. The legend of Melusine is related to the territorial and dynastic expansion of her descendants beyond Lusignan across the Mediterranean to distant Armenia during the Crusades, 1095 to 1291. Melusine was used as an abbreviation of the words Mère de Lusignan, or Mother of the Lusignans. The House of Lusignan was a royal house of French origin, which at various times ruled several principalities in Europe and the Levant, including the kingdoms of Jerusalem, Cyprus, and Armenia, from 1192 to 1489 during the Middle Ages. Christine, mother of Melusine, left the kingdom together with her 3 daughters, and traveled to the lost Isle of Avalon, where her daughters Melusine, Melor, and Palatine would grow up. After hearing of their father Elenos's broken promise, Melusine sought revenge. She rallied her sisters, and the 3 sisters captured and trapped him within a mountain. For that act, Melusine was condemned by her mother to take on the form of a serpent on Saturdays. 1456, translated to German. Raymond of Poitou came across Melusine in a forest of colombiers in Poitou in France and proposed marriage. Just as her mother had done, she laid a condition that he must never enter her chamber on a Saturday. He broke the promise and saw her in the form of part woman, part serpent, but she forgave him. Later, during a disagreement, he called her a serpent in front of his court. She provided him with 2 magic rings, transformed herself into a dragon, and flew off in a shrieking fury, never to return. Western Michigan University. Melusine's footprint, tracing the legacy of a medieval myth, transformation as process. Piet Pecorte's analysis of Melusine's integration into the urban space of Luxembourg, as well as into Luxembourg's 19th century mythology, argues that her legend acts as a medium of dynastic memory, precisely because of her hybrid nature.
The Gate of the Sun, Tiwanaku, Bolivia. Made from a single massive block of stone, most are highly impressed with its grandeur and its size, while in fact they tend to overlook the importance of the motif below the main character. When we view this motif in higher detail, we notice that its similarity is striking to the figure we've been researching, with 2 serpents descending from its feet and rising on each side. And in the center, if we take a closer look, we see something that can only be described as the nymph or the larva of a serpent. And in his hands 2 more serpents descending from above. When we overlay the image seen in the petroglyph, the similarity in the geometry seems beyond coincidence. Looking closer at the subject in the main frame, we notice he's wearing something like a mask, and this shouldn't surprise us, as this same mask has been featured in stone monuments, carvings, and figurines throughout the world. How long ago? These figurines are of the same subject, one without and one with the mask on. Carbon dating conducted by Arizona State University on the adhesive turned in a date of over 9,700 years old. Looking closer at the masked figurine, we see a symbol. And as well, when we inspect the figure on the gate at Tiwanaku, we see the same symbol, an orb ascending. These both match the iconography on the glyph panel. The history. The orb seen here can be found throughout history, from medieval tapestries to the rocks in the Nevada desert, to the Sumerian cylinder seals, over 5,000 years old. Now let's compare the symbol on the left of the panel to 2 Sumerian cylinder seals, and note the detail at the bottom of the glyph. Then note in the cylinder seals the same detail, what appears to be landing gear on some form of craft. Compiling all the characters in the panel, we can then compare it against historical reference. And in this case, we'll rearrange them and then compare them to an ancient cylinder seal from Sumeria, which depicts Enki giving the gift of flight to Ishtar, and beneath his feet a stag. The character on the far left corresponds to Ishtar in the cylinder seal relief, both holding the gift in their left hand, and both showing the reasoning for flight. Above and to her left can be seen the creator's vehicle of flight, the gift that Enki is giving to Ishtar. On the right of the glyph panel, we see the main character with its serpentine or hybrid features, a reptoid that holds the trident in its hands. This character itself represents water, as does the trident and the symbol for Melusine. Like this, on the cylinder seal we have Enki, who also symbolizes water, whose flowing water resembles the serpent tail of the main character. And last we have the stag, a subtle feature that again is seemingly far beyond coincidence. Yeah, the mammoth is getting pretty blasted out, huh? Mm-hmm. I don't know if the audio will work, but these are the guys. These are our human bros. You can see they got 5 toes. Says I'm human. You got a standard sized deer, a little bit in the distance. But they're holding these rods with one arm back, which is weird. Could be like spears or even that loud. This is an up down, so to the left should be up. He's got some other animals, pronghorn, antelope, deer, pronghorns. You got deer here, and then you got a much larger animal with club feet. He's got 1 club foot, 2, 3, 4. This one's raised forward with a knee bend like this. And you have a large angled back that goes all the way up here and crests down. And its head goes all the way forward, way up here. And then you've got what looks like been chipped out for a head, like the head here and down. So this should be a mammoth. And then the interesting part is you come over and you have these guys in reverse. So you still have deer, normal animals, and then you've got these guys here that have 3 appendages, or fingers, toes, and same thing here, 3, and they're a little larger than those guys. And then for kind of to be dramatic and give you a real detailed look, they give you this guy. And you can see where he's got a reptilian looking head. And he fits the Japanese stuff really, really well. So he's almost identical to the profiles of the Japanese models of the reptoid creatures. Which is really, really wild. And I'll tell you what, follow me up here real quick. And this is the main glyph, because this is the one that was shown by the big rock face thing over here. And stay back a little bit so you can see it. But right here is a dome shaped like a craft with some type of emission, and looks like the same tracer marks like we have, or movement. And then it beams across all the way over here to this creature. And it looks like a raptor. We've seen these on glyphs before. And you've got the head and the exact body, tails held erect, straight legs. And so you'll note that the scene here, what would be going on, would be that there is a craft rising up and emitting all these dots or energy, and hitting a creature like a raptor. That's the same thing we see. Sometimes, you know, you got the dome up here and you'll have the raptor down here and it'll be going down and hitting them, but it's the same motif that we see across the southwest at all these sites. Coolers Maximus. The craft. In the glyph panel we're looking at today, you can see the common dome-shaped, what appears to be a craft with the 3 beaming marks of travel. And these as well show up in other places in the world like Australia, where you have petroglyphs of all types of things from the Egyptians, and as well they show a similar dome-shaped, what appears to be a craft, with also beaming rays coming down below it. And these come in small and large varieties. And here in the southwestern USA, we can see, in addition to the same type of dome craft, but in this case, shooting down what looks like energy or lightning toward what can only be described as a raptor-type dinosaur. Nearby at the same location, we see the familiar dome-shaped craft, and below, the staff of Hermes. Called the Caduceus, and attributed to the Greek messenger of the gods, Hermes, has 2 snakes entwined around its staff, surmounted by wings. In its primary form, the caduceus represents peace, neutrality, and commerce, with this meaning can be found on many coats of arms and flags around the world. Pay particular attention to the protrusions at the base corners of the craft, and the triangular doorway marked by 2 lines. Then compare it to this artifact from Jalisco, Mexico. The same conical craft, the same 2 protrusions, and the same double-line triangular doorway. And if you look and pay attention closely, the same pilot. Look again and we see this same craft being hauled on the back of a character. And in the next frame we have many of the same artifacts featured, including one UFO that seems to dramatically show us the doorway with a being poking up, and small bands, maybe like a square wave or electrical current that's generated to cause flight. On the bottom you can note the same character exactly that we showed you earlier, that dated to 9,700 years old. And here in a picture taken at one of our sites, you can see a similar craft with lightning bolts being emitted from its upper surface and a possible pilot low to the left. And near this, there's what is about a 70-ton stone door with a plinth of rock fashioned in a way it could not be removed. Question is, what's under this door? Why did they come? This massive set of boulders, and others like them throughout the world, mark ancient sites, often with works so astounding it seems beyond the capabilities of man alone. Near this particular monument is a panel that shows a Native American shaman with a feathered standard and a shield with a star on it, meeting what can be described as an alien, or one of those small gray reptoid creatures that apparently seems to be coming out from a crack in the rock. And just beside the small cave that contains the panel is this cutout area in the cliff wall with a raised central portion and a cut cup inside with a small funneled trough leading from it. It is a small furnace or smelter for melting metal ores from the stone, and we can see inside the red coloration from the sandstone being exposed to extreme heat, meaning this metal smelter was used. And if used at the time of the glyph panel, it would have been about 9,000 to 10,000 years ago, which could have been the first experience of metallurgy for mankind in the world. Wow. You can shelter behind this rock. Check this out.
Let's see. Oh yeah, wow.
And see how tall and large the pack rat mitten is back there?
Here, I'll give you this.
That is really big, 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 big. I mean, that's outstandingly. That's got to be 3 or 4 feet thick, probably, that pack rat. And some of the sticks in there are 20, 24 inches long, inch thick. So those are the bigger rats. Those are the big rats. But that means there's a hell of a cavity. There's got to be a good seasonal cavity inside here that would keep them protected during the winter. On the big rats, you're talking rats like 15-pound rats, big bastards. I've never seen anything like that before. It's pretty good size, whatever it is. I've never seen one. I don't know what that is. This is the same material, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like much, but there's a little bit of repeated stuff on it, but just like they were knocking. But somebody was knocking chips out here. And so that other one showed all the sign of a tool. All right, and here's a repeated piece of a different material also being worked in, and you just quoted that. What's this top called here?
A platform with a bulb of percussion.
With a bulb of percussion, so you can
Force of impact.
So the force of impact was up here, and that knocked loose this piece, and then the shock wave went down, and this is what you end up with from it, and that's your chip. But for the most part, just to show that this material is being used as tools and that these are tools, is a dramatic example, which is sitting right here. Now, how cool is that?
That's awesome. Wow. Beautiful.
There really is some pretty nice work, too. For being chert. Now, that's chert, so you know what that is. That's granulated quartz. Or they call it sugar quartz. Now, that's quite a reward for tracking stuff down today. How cool is that? Okay, that's going to wrap it up. Done about all the exploring up here we're going to get in this evening. Still got to walk out of here tonight. We paid our respects in their little offering hole up there and everything, and then ended up with this. So, I guess they were grateful.
Hey!